Very, very excited to be here this evening. Very happy to be on this stage with two very awesome people who I've gotten to know over the last day and change. I've got some good news for you all. On top of everything you've heard, I have another hearty dose of optimism, and I've only got 20 minutes to give it all to you. But as you're all undoubtedly aware, we have a new century upon us, and this 21st century is going to be marked by a revolution. In the same way that the Industrial Revolution dramatically changed economies around the globe, a revolution thanks to software is doing just that, and it's already gotten started. A famous entrepreneur and venture capitalist named Mark Andreessen famously wrote in the Wall Street Journal that software is eating the world, and he's right. It's only started, and the delivery mechanism that makes so much of it powerful and possible is the open internet. And that's why I'm such a big fan of it. I'm on the Twitters as well, so please tweet at me. If you're looking at your phone, I will not assume that you're tweeting at me. I'll assume you're texting a loved one or doing something else. I won't take it personally, though. There's something very special here, and I want to talk about it. But first, I should also mention, you guys may not be aware, but I am a lottery winner. It's true. It's true. I won a life lottery when I was born. I was handed an invisible life lottery ticket. Because I was born in the United States to a middle-class family, two loving parents. In case you can tell, I'm a white male. I was afforded a tremendous amount of privilege doing really nothing to earn it. But it's something that I don't take lightly. And it's something that weighs on me, because when I look at the power and promise of the open internet, I imagine more of these life lottery tickets being spread out, more opportunity being made possible for people who have access to this platform and the ability to do awesome things on it. Because ultimately, it's going to mean better things for all of us. It's going to mean better ideas that get to reach the world. And that makes me a very happy person. And as a side note, apparently height also correlates with executive salary. I don't know if you've noticed this, Dom, but it's kind of absurd. But so I've had pretty much every advantage going for me, right? Total cheat codes. But the stories that I tell here are not stories that are unique to me. They are possible for any one of us, like I said, with access to this incredible platform. So, as you may notice, the startups that I've been involved with launching all have cute mascots. It's not required in whatever you do, it's just something I really like doing. I like drawing cute logos. Reddit was a company I started right out of college with a good friend of mine named Steve Huffman. This was back in 2005. And this is what it looked like. This is the first version of the site. It's a little embarrassing. For those of you who aren't familiar with Reddit, that just means you're more productive at work than everyone else. For those of you who do Reddit, I'll assume those of you who are laughing, you know that it is a platform for online communities. They share links, they have discussions, and unique to Reddit, the community votes them up or down based on whether they like them or don't. And it's this wonderful rising and falling front page of new and interesting stuff. But when we started, it was this. Graphically, it has not improved a lot since then. We still have a lot to learn about graphic design. And you'll notice that I did get one downvote from Steve, which I am trying not to take personally. But when there's only two people in a company, you know exactly who's downvoting your content when you've just launched. But today, Reddit has grown tremendously. Incidentally, most of this growth has happened since Steve and I left our full-time positions. I'm now on the board of Reddit, so whether or not that success is related to me leaving, I'll leave that up to you. I like to think it's correlation, not causation, but so be it. But today, Reddit is full of thousands of these communities where people go and share links and have discussions about anything you can imagine, ranging from Islam to cute photos of cats. I happen to really like cats, and I really love the fact that the internet appreciates them too. But if you can dream it, this is a platform for communities to discuss it, and you can subscribe to whatever you like. And the reason it worked was ultimately because we gave control to our users to do all the brilliant things that we never could have dreamed of. And 3 months ago, the President of the United States came on to do a crowdsourced interview with the community of Reddit. Same idea, where people vote up and down the best comments, and he actually took 30 minutes to sit down and answer them. This was something we never could have imagined back then. We had just graduated from college. We had no business starting a company, and we certainly didn't delude ourselves into thinking one day the President of the United States is going to use this. No, we didn't. That's okay, because some of the greatest entrepreneurial stories all sort of start the same way. People just thinking, you know what, I don't need anyone's permission, I'll just try. Hitmonk was started sort of the opposite way. We started this because we hated an experience. This is one of my other favorite kinds of founding story motifs because people get frustrated. You all may not know this, you may not be fully aware of this, but there are some sites out there that hate you. They totally disrespect you. Don't laugh because it is rude of them, all right? And you'll find this. You'll find yourself using websites, using products, and you'll be so frustrated because the experience is so bad. This is exactly what happened with Flight Search. We were looking, trying to book flights, and we realized, Adam Goldstein, our co-founder, realized on the 20th page of search results, he realized what was the point of having this flight? For this particular route, this is literally the worst flight you could take. It's the most expensive ticket. It has the most layovers. Like, this is a terrible flight. Who on earth is thinking, oh, finally, honey, I found it, the worst flight imaginable. It's really expensive. We're going to hate each other by the end of the vacation. This is going to be great. Right? What masochist keeps this in there? And it's ridiculous because you see this and you need to think to yourself, this is absurd. Why? What is the point? And then they even have the audacity to show you this. Look closely. It says too many pages there on the bottom. Use the filters to instantly narrow down the list. So what they're saying is we have the technology to not inundate you with these garbage flights, and we're still going to show you them anyway. It's infuriating. Absolutely infuriating, right? We deserve better than this as users. And what we're starting to notice is that this trend of companies that just simply don't care, opportunity. It's opportunity for plucky founders to drink their milkshake. It's an opportunity for founders to show that they can win by caring about user experience. Now, I'll go into this a bit later, but with Hitmonk, it was agony, right? We realized that what people really wanted was the least agonizing flight. They pay a few more dollars in order to avoid a painful layover. And it turns out, so far, 2 years in, knock on wood, things are going well, and it seems to be working. We took the same approach with hotels. We knew that if you were doing business in New York, you probably wanted to stay in a different part of town than if you were going with your family. So we made the hotel search accommodate what users actually wanted. Now, after startups, I started getting into investing. It's been a lot of fun not having to lose all of the sleep that is required in being a startup founder. So I get to invest in companies like this one that are disrupting really cool industries. And I've also been involved politically in the United States because there have been forces at work trying to curtail internet freedom. The open internet platform that I believe in so much, that provides for any one of us to get online and create, is sometimes threatened. But fortunately, there are far more of us who want it than the few lobbyists who are against it. And when I talk about innovation, right, when I talk about algebra, something here, something that could not have happened without a brilliant person behind it, right? All of the contributions we've gained from algebra are really starting from a single person. All of the great innovations we enjoy have come from people. So let's talk about those people that have always driven the innovation, right? Because at the core of that is education, is the ability for men and women to get the access and the ability they need to do this awesome stuff. Nothing's changed in millennia, right? Humans have still been the most important driving force behind innovation. It still takes a person to take a pencil to paper and come up with a great idea that did not exist before. Now they're just doing it with pixels. Right? And I talked earlier about this being a new kind of industrial revolution, except the difference is you don't need to open a factory, you just need to open a laptop. And that is a powerful idea, because that idea starts to spread. Because when one person has success, this was actually a mayor from a US city in Denver, Colorado that mentioned this to me once. He said it's an innovation multiplier, because when we bring a startup, when we see a startup emerge here in Denver, it inspires other people to think, aha, I can do this too. This started with a laptop in a cafe, and why can't I do this too? Because one person succeeds, they see others, and they start to build a community around them. And when they have great success, they start reinvesting as an investor back into the community. And so you start seeing things like we have here in New York. This is called General Assembly. It's a co-working space as well as campus that's now grown all over the world that has these same principles. Here is a hackathon, like you heard about earlier from Dom, where people are just building things, where there is a fervor around creation, where people are hungry at a time when this economy is still trying to find its swagger, right? These are people who are hungry and are building things and are finding success. And it's not just happening here in Silicon Valley. They have very good burritos there. I really miss the Mexican food when I'm not on the West Coast. But this is not exclusive to Silicon Valley. This kind of innovation is happening everywhere. In particular, I saw it firsthand when I took a crowd-funded campaign-style tour bus across the Heartland of America. If you haven't visited the Heartland of America before, don't worry, I hadn't either. And yes, it is full of corn and flat roads, just as far as the eye can see, corn. But this is not what is normally known as a hotbed of innovation. This is rather far from Silicon Valley. But what we found with every single person we met, we brought a half dozen journalists with us. With every single person we met, they were excited about the promise and potential of this platform, of the internet, for them to create. We met auto manufacturers. This is a car crowdsourced on the internet. This was designed by people sitting at computers all over the world. In the same way that on Threadless, for instance, you all might crowdsource a t-shirt design, they did it with a car. And here's what's even cooler. It was entirely manufactured in the US, something I can assure you that is very, very rare back home in the States. And they did it, and they couldn't have done it without the internet. And they're so grateful for the internet that when I think, man, how many more industries can this disrupt? Well, in fact, auto manufacturing is being disrupted right now because they can produce a car for a fraction of what it takes Toyota and actually be able to source demand before trying to bring a product to market. And so we'd meet university students who were excited about the economy they were about to go into, right? Graduating seniors who were excited about what is otherwise a very daunting job market because they saw the potential to create things for themselves, to discover their own destiny and to create whatever they wanted using the resources they knew they had freely available thanks to the internet. And then we met truckers. This gentleman was taking one of those big rigs across the country when we stopped at this random gas station. And not initially a kind of guy I might think, I'm going to strike up a conversation with him about the future of internet freedom. But he asked, he was like, what's that bus all about? And we explained it to him, and he said, man, that sounds great. I would love to leave my truck and join you guys on this bus tour. Now, it would have been an awesome sight to have had like big rig, bus, like a whole convoy. But instead, we found more and more excited people along the way. This is a farmer. This is a large dude named Carl in Des Moines, Iowa. And he's a farmer who is excited about the internet because it's finally given him a platform to fund farming ideas that would have never gotten investment otherwise. Because he can go on a site like Indiegogo with a pitch, with a video, and say, I've got a new technique for harvesting hogs, and if you're willing to back it, I'll take your money and I'll give you some of the best bacon you've ever had. Now, he's a guy who I would not have expected to be raving about the power of the internet to affect his business, but he's doing it. He's thrilled by it. And when I'm seeing farmers and auto manufacturers and college students and entrepreneurs of all stripes excited in the heartland of America about the future of the internet, I'm thinking, man, this is big. This is real big. And this is a thesis that was born out a decade ago in a little country that used to be behind the wall of the Soviet Union called Estonia. This is one of my favorite examples of the power of software because it was a huge success pre this wonderful social web. All right, now, Estonia, again, behind the Soviet Union for decades, under the heel of one of the most oppressive regimes the world has ever seen. And when they came out of it, they invested in IT. They invested in their people. They invested in that kind of education that brings about innovation. And they built a little something called Skype. All of the developers, or most of the developers that built this world-changing software were from a country that a decade and change earlier had food lines. Right? Think about that. Think of the power of software. Now it gets even more interesting. Not only did this software change the world, and we all know we can't live without Skype, it generated a little bit of value too. When Skype was acquired by eBay the first time, it was acquired for $2.6 billion. Now to put this in perspective, at the time, the entire country of Estonia's GDP was 21 billion. So they generated about a 10% of value of the entire country thanks to software, thanks to some code, and thanks to some smart forward thinking that invested in the people who were going to do this innovation. And if this could happen in Estonia, how many other places could it happen? Now let's imagine for a moment we're in the present now. We're in the digital age with all that wonderful software running about through the internets. All right, now let's imagine it's an oil-rich country, population of about 5 million, right? Imagine the kind of innovation that could happen in Finland. Now, interestingly enough, the United Arab Emirates and Finland don't have a lot in common. But interestingly enough, from an economic standpoint as well as from a population standpoint, they're interestingly comparable, although they are much colder in Finland. Much colder. You may have heard of a little game known as Angry Birds, right? Now, this is not their first game, but a company called Rovio had been developing software there in Finland because presumably there aren't a lot of fun things to do during those really dark months. So they created a game company because why not? And the ambitions of Rovio are now to become the next Disney. They want to be a 21st century Disney. And judging from the movie, the candy, the Halloween costumes, from everything that I've seen, they are on track to potentially be a 21st century Disney. And they've started it and are running it from Finland. And why not? I can assure you the vast majority of people who waste way too much time on Angry Birds have no idea that the company behind it is chilling back in Finland, right? That's the power of this platform, right? If you can build something people really want, the whole world can be enthralled by it. And that's powerful. Over 1 billion people have downloaded it so far, and I am personally looking forward to seeing the Angry Birds movie, if for no other reason than to validate my thesis about Finland being potentially the next place for Disney 2.0. And this makes me happy, all right? This cat illustrates how happy I am when I think about this. It's not my cat. My cat doesn't photograph well. She's all black, and she loves getting in front of the camera, but she doesn't photograph well, so settle for this one. This thrills me, right? Because it means so much opportunity. Because if you can beat this, if you can defeat the back button, you can win. This is something Paul Graham taught me very long ago, and I love telling founders this, because that is your enemy online. Because at any moment, there's another cute animal, there's a cute cat photo that wants to take your user's attention. And if you can be better than this button, you can hold their attention and you can win. And if you can think like you really need to earn every single user, you can actually earn and win every single one of these users, and then it doesn't matter who you are. And this gets fun, all right? This gentleman, Guy Kawasaki, well known for being the chief evangelist for a little company called Apple, he has made a career for himself as being this guru of marketing. Always make a note when someone calls himself a guru. But point taken, he is someone who knows a thing or two about getting a product out there, right? Getting it heard. He developed something you may not have heard about called Alltop. And this is not to slight him, but this is a website he created around the same time we launched Reddit. And even with all of the success he has had personally in marketing, literally writing the book on it 12 times, this site didn't really grow too much. It didn't do too well because it didn't matter who he was. It mattered how good the thing it was that he had made. Now that works from a flip side too. It also means that you can be a couple of recent college graduates who have no idea what they're doing. Really, no idea what that is. Probably what I was thinking when that photo was taken. And if you can make something people actually want, you can win. Now that's a powerful idea. Can you imagine telling a recent college graduate, you know what, and I can with a straight face, I do it every time I speak at universities, you have the opportunity to create something that will win based on its merit. If you can make something people genuinely want, everything else starts to fade away, right? As long as you can get that idea online, that's a powerful idea. Because it really is this level playing field, right? Imagine that level soccer pitch, but it's the size of the globe. And you have this platform that can be global instantly. And as software continues to play a bigger part of our lives, this model continues to hold up. And I'm thrilled to see it copied all over the world. Y Combinator was the seed stage venture firm that really kind of created this model. Paul Graham was the guy behind it. He was the original founder who said, you know what, we just need a little bit of money in these founders. With a little bit of investment, they can turn it into something really big. That's why he ended up on the cover of Forbes. Incidentally, one of the few times he actually wore long pants. He loves wearing shorts, and I believe his wife insisted that, at least for the cover of Forbes, he should class it up a little bit. That's what wives are for, keeping it classy. Now, Drew. This guy used to show up all the time at Y Combinator. He'd come for these open tea sessions we had, and we loved him. He's clearly a very smart guy. But he was working on some dead-end software. It was SAT prep. His founder wasn't really that into it. And so we kept saying, Drew, you can find something, solve a real problem. Find something that pains you and build it and make it better than anyone else. Like, you can do this. And so he found his inspiration in a bus station. He was at South Station in Boston waiting for the Chinatown bus, which if you haven't taken it is a fabulous experience, slightly dangerous, but very affordable, and probably the dominant way most founders and college students get between the major cities on the East Coast. Now he was waiting for this bus, working or hoping to work on his lame SAT prep software, but he left his flash drive How annoying is that, right? So he couldn't do anything, and he thought, if I only had brought this flash drive, I could be working right now. Let me just try to come up with a solution so I never need to worry about where my flash drive is. I just want all my files to just sync. And so while he was on a Chinatown bus heading from Boston to destination unknown, probably New York, he built a little piece of software called Dropbox, and he was most recently on the cover of Forbes magazine. Now, ideas started on a Chinatown bus, right? That's where he got his start. Okay, and this idea is literally changing the world right now, and it's one of my favorite examples because you can take something, you can take an investment that's about the cost of a Ford Focus, about $20,000 or less, and in this industry, within a few years, if it works out, it can be worth billions. Now, this is a proposition that the world has never seen before because, quite simply, we weren't this connected. There wasn't nearly the kind of scale opportunity that there is now, thanks to the connected web. And that's a big deal. Because software is not going to stop eating the world. It will not get indigestion. It will just keep devouring. And so YC's model has been proven out. It's the fact that starting these companies are cheap. Really, the most expensive thing to get started is food, shelter, and I guess in Dropbox's case, the cost of a ticket on a bus from Boston to New York. Right? They're capable of unprecedented growth, and there's an incredible value in the network. Remember, I talked about those communities early on, and as you can build them, you start to see people helping one another out because they come to one another looking to give, not to get. And if you can make something people want, good. But if you can make something people love, you're in world-changing territory. You start getting people writing you postcards saying, how dare you change this feature, because they care so much about it, right? That's a sign that people care. It's the kind of thing most companies would dream of. Could you imagine writing, I don't know, the Hershey company if they changed something about a chocolate bar you didn't like? Well, maybe. I guess it depends on how much you like chocolate. It's very rare that we find ourselves so motivated to care. But never before have the opportunities for us to connect with our users been so plentiful, right? Because social media back in 2005 when we started Reddit wasn't even a phrase. Facebook was just in colleges, and a couple of these sites, barely were getting started. Today, social media abounds, right? There are people who make their entire careers talking about social media, thinking about what the next thing will be. I don't know what will be next. If I did, I would have invested in it, I promise. I don't have a crystal ball. I left it at home. But I know a few things, and I want to talk about those. Good design is winning, right? This is a tidal wave that Hitmonk has been riding. You heard about Instagram, and I'm going to talk about it again, because the core point of user experience is that your design either shows me how much you respect me, how much you like me, or how much you hate me, right? How much you disrespect me. And so many companies simply don't care. And that's an opportunity, right? Because Instagram did it better than anyone else at a time when there were plenty of other ways to take a pretty photo, but they did it far better, far simpler than anyone else. SeatGeek is a company that launched recently in New York that solves any one of your third-party ticket buying problems, right? So whether you want to see Manchester United or Rihanna, you can now actually see the best deals in the arena based on historical prices. So you're not looking at lists upon lists of tickets that are being resold. You're actually finding exactly what you want and getting on with your life. Airbnb has made it possible for us to see value in space. This company started out renting out some spare space in their apartment because they needed to pay the rent. And today, they have more rooms than Hilton. People all over the world are renting out spare bedrooms here in Abu Dhabi to entire tree houses in Costa Rica. It's actually not a hypothetical. You can really rent out a tree house in Costa Rica. You should do it on Airbnb. And Dropbox, like I said, made file syncing effortless, right? If you've used it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And when Drew was going around talking to investors, they all said the same thing. Drew, file syncing, everyone's doing this. Like there's a dozen competitors. Why are you even bothering? And Drew very shrewdly looked at him and was like, well, how many of them do you use? VCs were like, all right, touche. I don't use any of them, right? It seemed like there were solutions that were all over the place, but none of them were actually things that people wanted. And this means more efficient marketplaces, because at the end of the day, business is just supply meeting demand, right? This is old school business, but what the internet has been able to do is awaken inefficient marketplaces, right? Because we all sleep with our iPhones now. We are more connected than ever and getting more connected. And all of a sudden, we're seeing supply meet demand like never before. Craigslist was a good first stab at it, but that was the first version. And we're starting to see companies individually pick off different sections of what was once a fairly robust site. Airbnb, like I said, has made a marketplace for space, whether you're renting out a room or looking for one to stay in. RideJoy lets you share rides with other people. It's crowdsourced carpooling. Skillshare, one of my favorites, is a company that lets anyone with a skill put a price on it and teach classes. So this woman runs an absolute beginner crochet alpaca rug workshop. Yeah, you didn't think you wanted to know about how to do crochet alpaca rug making, but now you do, maybe. But look at this broader point, right? Here is such a niche skill that Loopy Mango has that she now has a value attached to. She is now running these classes, making money, teaching people at something as precise as absolute beginner crochet alpaca rug making, and there's a market for it. What a big deal. This is stuff. Loopy Mango, which I don't believe is her real name, would have always had these skills. Maybe she would have taught a few friends. Maybe a few people would have heard about it, and maybe it would have grown. But now that marketplace is brought to life. Think of all the other Loopy Mangoes out there who have skills. I'm willing to bet every single one of you has a skill right now that people would pay money to learn from you. This is economics 101, right? Supply is meeting demand. I'm learning how to make that alpaca rug that I've always wanted, and she's getting paid. Right? And this is just the beginning. There are people willing to make a home-cooked meal for you in California using Gobble and deliver it to your home. As someone who hasn't had a home-cooked meal in a very long time, this is a very appealing proposition, but we're just at the beginning of this. We don't know which ones will be the winners or losers. All we know is that people are disrupting everything, right? Even marketplaces for investors are being disrupted because now people who have companies that are looking for funding can build a profile just like they would on LinkedIn, except on AngelList, where all of the individuals who are looking at it are angel investors. And they're all bidding and getting introductions, recommendations. Like when angel investing is getting disrupted, you know things are getting interesting. And making things people want has gotten easier than ever before, right? It used to be, if you build it, they will come. And in some instances, Apple, very famously, is really good at this, right? They're very good at making things that people want. They know what people want. Sometimes we can't help but throw our wallets at them, right? But we're not all Steve Jobs. Trust me, I wish. I wish I were. It's a fraction, just a little bit. We're not, but that's okay, because the script has been flipped. It means that 5 goofy but friendly Canadians from the University of Waterloo who want to make a revolutionary watch, the Pebble Watch. It's a watch that syncs with your smartphones, that you can read emails from it or do whatever you like. It means that they can actually test to see if there's market demand before building the first 1,000 versions. And when they went to AngelList, which like I said is doing a good job disrupting that market, they couldn't find funding because people said, hardware, we don't want to, no, we're sticking to software. They said, fine, we're going to use Kickstarter. Now Kickstarter's not even designed for this, and yet they raised, that's not a typo, $10 million in pre-orders for this watch. Now this was a team of smart guys that had built a prototype, made a compelling video, told a compelling story, and said if you want one of these, put down, I think it's $160. And they had 68,000 backers. And so now all of those backers knew, okay, I just put down some money with the hope that this will come to fruition. These people were not just putting down pre-orders, they became cheerleaders. And now this watch is being manufactured. The Wall Street Journal gets excited because it's a whole new shift in the way that hardware gets made. And they've actually got these things now starting to roll off the conveyor belts. They hope to make the next Apple, except they're doing it the other way around because they know they're not Steve Jobs, but they have a platform where they can actually see if there is real demand before they build the thing. The tangible thing, right? This was 2 years ago, investors like me were terrified of hardware because it was a thing. It wasn't pixels. It took too long. And if it went wrong, you were hosed, right? But even this is unsafe from the power of the internet. Even this is getting disrupted, and it's really exciting. It's going to mean better watches for all of us. It's going to mean better vacations. It's going to mean better alpaca rugs, right? It's going to mean better ideas. And that's really, really cool, right? Because it's affecting everything. Even comedians are using these models in order to directly engage with their fans. And they're making money. That's right, he made $1 million through video downloads. Video, how many, right? At a time when, Gangnam Style is now the most viewed video on YouTube, people are actually still willing to pay $5 for a high quality video download because it's going directly to the artist. These models are being written right now. Even books, this was a recent one we published, are being crowdfunded in the exact same way that Pebble Watch was. Everything is up for grabs. Everything is potentially being changed, and 3D printing is just beginning to enter our lives, right? There is so much potential we haven't even begun to see because it's innovation and because it's stuff that people on stage can't possibly predict because awesome people in the audience are the ones who are actually going to be building this stuff. And the one message that I hope to leave you all with is that I know Tom Friedman has made a career out of this whole idea that the world is flat. Look, I've checked, all right? It's not. We spent a lot of money on our satellites at NASA to know that it is not flat. But while the world is not flat, the World Wide Web is. And this is such a powerful idea as we enter this century because I really do hope, I really do believe that it means more of these sort of life lottery tickets, more of these opportunities for people with great ideas to actually share them with the world. I like to think of the internet as the world's greatest library. Think of it as infinitely grander than even the Library of Alexandria. But it's also the world's greatest stage, a platform for us to share our ideas. And for millennia, there have been awesome people with great ideas who would have changed the world, but who never had the access or the opportunity to do it because of, frankly, a lot of stupid reasons. And while the internet is not a cure-all, it is an incredible platform for those who get the access and have the ability to use it. And that is why innovation is such a tremendous resource and why I hope all of you take this message back from wherever you came to spread it throughout Abu Dhabi and the United Arab Emirates. Thank you.